it's a big game, isn't it? They did Liverpool a huge favour at the weekend by taking points off Arsenal. They've taken points off Arsenal, Spurs, Newcastle. They ran Man City very close, unlucky not to win that game. It's obviously another big game for Liverpool, especially as the gap has now closed to 4 points with not playing last weekend and Chelsea winning. But it's going to be a difficult game, isn't it?
Yeah, I just think defensively Fulham are very, very good and will give Liverpool a real test. And you kind of look at the struggles that they had unlocking that low block that Girona had. You know, Fulham are very, very capable of doing that. And I mean, they restricted Arsenal to, was it 0.3 expected goals from open play in that game, which is a remarkable effort, really. So that just shows how difficult it's going to be. And they've got so much pace to hurt you on the counter as well. I mean, Adama Traore is absolutely ruthless, isn't he, in terms of getting away? I mean, it's a flip of a coin sometimes whether he's going to have any end product, but he can get away from your defence, and got loads of quality players like Harry Wilson as well. Jimenez is a brilliant player. So it's a really tough one. I think the upside for Liverpool is it's back to Anfield now, and that will be good. And, you know, the atmosphere and just playing in that familiar conditions always helps them. So, you know, again, you would make them big favourites, but it's a tough test, and they are really well set up under Marco Silva to not just get results at home, but away from home as well on the counter attack and the way they defend. Yeah, they're a really good side.
A bit of an interesting dynamic, which Liverpool aren't used to too much at the moment, of playing at the same time as Arsenal. Arsenal got Everton 3 p.m. Saturday as well. Could that play any part? Well, they won't really have one eye on Arsenal's result at the moment, where they were still too far to go, and they'll focus on themselves. But that's a bit of an extra and rare dynamic this season.
Yeah, I think it's kind of helpful, really, because you're not thinking about it. You're not looking at it if it's the early kickoff and wondering how they get on. You're not thinking, oh, it's a chance to put pressure on them. It's just something that's going on in the background. And if you can focus on your job and win your game, and then Arsenal have suddenly dropped points in theirs, you know, when you come back in at full time, then that's a bonus. But you have to do your part of the job there, which is to just get the win. So, yeah, I'm sure Liverpool will just be fully focused on that.
And do we think Jota might be in and around the squad for this one? How's his recovery going?
Yeah, tough to say, really. Obviously, I went down to training on Monday and saw that he was involved there, and sort of certainly in the part that we saw. But, you know, one thing in a sense I've got from this new regime is that they are extra careful in bringing players back, no matter what the injury, really. I mean, we've seen that in the past with muscle injuries, but it just seems every type of injury, really. And I mean, I think previously even Alisson would have been back earlier than we actually saw. He could have been back earlier than this. So with Jota, you know, in being in and around training, not entirely sure what that means. Obviously didn't travel to Girona, but hopefully he can be involved in this one, because even if he can do 10 minutes off the bench, I just think Liverpool need him to get back there and be starting games, because, as I say, it's not massively happening for Núñez at the moment, and it's getting slightly to the point where he's kind of playing at the detriment to the team, and he needs maybe a stint out of the side at the moment. So if you can get Jota back, that would be a big boost. So hopefully he's involved for Fulham, but it's very, very hard to say at the moment.
Yeah, in terms of the title race as a whole, then, I mean, how do you see it after last weekend? Because it was an interesting one where Arsenal dropped points but moved closer to Liverpool because they didn't play, obviously, against Everton. Chelsea continued to put their hat in the ring. I think we've both discussed it in the past that maybe we don't see them as consistent challengers all the way through the season. But that gap is only 4 points now. On when we last spoke, it was 9 points. So psychologically, how much of a difference could that make? And also, Liverpool still favourites, obviously, got that game in hand, but there's something to be said for having the points on the board for the chasing back rather than that game in hand as well.
Yeah, I mean, basically, the weekend couldn't have gone better if you're not going to play in terms of everybody dropping points. And as you say, it does move them closer, but not as close as they thought. And, all the talk when Liverpool's game got called off, particularly I saw from kind of Arsenal supporters, was, oh, this is a chance to put the pressure on. And then obviously they've really missed that opportunity. So I don't think Liverpool will be too focused on the fact that the gap has closed, because, even if you just said, and for me, I don't want to dismiss anyone, but you don't really see Chelsea as title contenders at the moment, because I think defensively there's too many question marks there, and I think they'll drop points frequently as a side that, with their defensive record at the moment. But even if you say that they are in the mix, then 4 points is a great gap at any point in the season. You're absolutely happy with that. That's still 2 games worth, and back to Arsenal again, 6 points still. That's again very good, with the opportunity to go to 9 at some point. So I'd like to think they're not suddenly feeling the pressure of it being 9 and then going to 4. It just shouldn't, if they are thinking like that, they're probably not going to win the title, because if that feels like pressure, then they're probably in trouble, because it will, grow and shrink at times this season. It's just going to happen. So their focus has to be on winning games. And I think that's the thing with Arsenal. There's so much of the talk around them has been on, they can get on this run. They're going to put the pressure on Liverpool, and then it's, they've dropped points again. And that's now 7 of the 15 games that they played so far this season. They've dropped points, and they're just nowhere near it. So, I think for Liverpool, they don't have to think about expanding the gap or think about where the other teams are. Just keep winning football matches. And if they do that, then the gap will look after itself, won't it?
Yeah. What did you think of the derby being postponed in terms of whether it benefits Liverpool at all? For me, it came at a pretty good time to be postponed in those blustery conditions, which tend to sort of level the playing field a little bit. Everton coming off the back of the 4-0 win would have been a big boost to their confidence, and obviously the fixture schedule. I mean, we're acting like it's a massive break. It was only 6 days breaks with one game, but in this period of the season, that can make quite a lot of difference, can't it?
Yeah, I just came at a point as well. It just the schedule felt a little bit relentless for Liverpool. I mean, that would have been the 3rd game in 6 days, and then you go back to the 4th game. It's Real Madrid, Manchester City, Newcastle away, then Everton away. It felt like an awful lot, really, coming into that. And as you say, the conditions were terrible. If the wind had been slightly less and it could have gone ahead, you wouldn't want to be playing Everton away in those conditions. It would have just been, set pieces, long balls, really difficult. You look at the injuries that Liverpool have at the moment. Obviously, Chiesa could be back soon with just illness at the moment, so he's close. Jota is very close now. Alisson is close. All 3 of those would have missed the game. And when it's rescheduled, you hope you could have Canate back, Tsimikas, and the entirety of the squad. So there was several reasons why it was quite handy for Liverpool for it to be called off. I guess the great unknown is when it's going to be rescheduled, and I suspect it's maybe in those playoff spots in the Champions League in that kind of February date. Maybe it could get slotted in there, and that wouldn't be too bad. That would actually be quite kind for Liverpool fixture-wise if it does land there. But obviously, we don't know where they're going to be looking at injury-wise or form-wise at that point. But I just think you can, take the evidence that we have now, which is the weather conditions, the injuries, the fact that McAllister was suspended, by the way, and add that all up really, and say that in that moment that was actually a pretty good time for it to be postponed. But then we'll have to reserve judgment in terms of when it'll be rescheduled and if that is a good time to play it instead.